I'm Dr. Meg. I've worked as an independent college counselor for many, many years, and really organized families would bring me in to meet with their freshman and sophomore students. And I've accumulated a lot of experience talking with kids of that age. I have a lot of advice. This is for kids who really want to get into top schools and want to do everything they can in high school to maximize their chances. But I actually think the advice that I would give these students is good for all high school students because it's about really figuring out who you are and what you want to be doing in your life. So if you haven't seen it yet, make sure to watch my video for ninth graders, even if your kid is older, because I've got a lot of good advice for any high schooler in that video as well. I'm going to be offering my top 4 tips for sophomores, so stay tuned. All right, my first tip for parents of sophomores is that when it comes to activities, the weirder, the better. Let me explain. My dad had a real knack for this. He would interview Harvard applicants as an alumni. And so he just kind of had a sense of what would make students stand out. And he knew that unusual activities were good. So when my younger brother got into falconry, my dad had the good sense to encourage me to get into falconry as well. Now, it wasn't that I wasn't interested in it. I was. He was just helping me turn it into something in a way that schools could see it. We were very unusual in Orange County, but he sort of pushed me to turn it into something. And I went and studied and got my license with the Department of Fish and Game in California, my falconry license, and I became the youngest woman licensed falconer in California. I've made a lot of money off of that, by the way. Just kidding. But he had the good sense that a place like Stanford would be interested in that, and they were. So as parents, I think that we can direct our kids. It's not about going and finding something unusual that the kid isn't interested in. That's not going to show up well on an application, and it's not worth it. But let's say your student is deciding between piano and flugelhorn. It's definitely flugelhorn time. So just like where you can as a parent, help direct your kid to things that are going to stand out and things that are more unusual. Now, my second piece of advice also relates to activities. By 10th grade, students often have a lot of interests. Some of them more formal, like they're in an extracurricular at their school or something like that. And then others are more informal, like they're interested in baking or they like to work out. My advice is wherever you can, encourage your kid to turn their informal interests into something that schools can see. So for instance, I did a lot of baking in high school. I got really into it. I never mentioned it once on my application. I got really into chocolate work. I don't know. It was like a creative outlet for me. But something I could have done is, done a bake sale for a cause I believed in. Anything like that. Maybe gone and done an internship at a restaurant or helped out or something like that, gone to a cooking class, anything where a school can see like, oh, that person, it can go on an activities list and they can say, oh, that student's really interested in that. It demonstrates to schools that a student is willing to invest in their interests. They don't just kind of care about things. They actually pursue them to whatever end that leads to. So it's like, as a parent, you don't want to pressure your kid, but you can encourage them to follow their interests wherever they lead. So my third piece of advice for parents is to get ahead of any crisis a student might be facing. I don't know why, but I see this crop up so much in 10th and 11th grade for kids. Maybe it's that we live in very exhausting times and a lot of kids are struggling with their mental health. Maybe it's that our cultural awareness of learning differences is going up, and as such, we're starting to catch it more in kids. But whatever's going on for your kid, if they're struggling in school, either emotionally or academically, I really encourage you to get ahead of it and get them help sooner than later. Because I've helped a lot of students apply to school where they had, a big dip in grades in sophomore year or something. And if the kid is able to get help and then their grades bounce back, then a school knows that's in the rearview mirror. They've dealt with that issue. And in fact, they've shown a lot of resilience and they've bounced back. That's so much better than a problem getting worse and worse and grades really dipping, or kids overriding the issue and still performing well, but then they're setting themselves up for burnout down the road. My last piece of advice for the parents of 10th graders really relates to my bigger philosophy about college admissions. The way I would sum it up is wherever you go, there you are. Okay, so when a student is trying to decide, say in 10th grade, how many APs they're going to take, how many difficult honors courses they're going to take, and they're getting the advice that they need to push themselves as much as possible, I really question that, because if a student isn't up for it and they're going beyond what they can actually do, and they're starting to sort of go outside of their means energetically, they're putting themselves on a course where they're going to be expected to keep doing that the next year. They may be able to get into a school where they're not going to thrive. And then, what does it matter if they're at the top school, but they're not thriving? They're not going to really want to go to grad school. Things are going to start to fall apart. So I really encourage families, parents, and their kids to stay within their energetic means and be where they are. Don't push themselves too much. Don't go beyond where a kid naturally wants to be, because the outcomes for that are not good, both academically and with mental health. It would be much better for a student to stay within their means and really excel and maybe, gather momentum academically as they go, than push themselves too far, burn out, and not thrive. So that's my top advice for parents of 10th graders. If you found my video useful, I can't believe I'm saying this, but please make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. And also make sure to sign up for my free guide, my top 10 tips for massively reducing stress in the college admissions process. This is some of my best advice I've accumulated over many, many years of this work, and I hope you find it as useful as others have. And stay tuned, because I have a lot more videos coming up on how to prepare your kid for the college admissions process. Thanks. I'm Dr. Meg.